this Star Trek Fun Facts video, I take a look at some really cool trivia from Star Trek and its amazing actors, like which actor and war hero lost a body part in World War II, Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner's musical endeavors, and which actor ended up at the OK Corral 3 times and ended up teaming up with the Lone Ranger. And that's just for starters.
Thank you, sir.
James Doohan's real-life war experiences made him an actual action hero way before he ever went to space on Star Trek. James Doohan was there on D-Day during World War II on June 6, 1944. After surviving the beach landing without injury, he was later shot 8 times by one of his own, another Canadian soldier. He took one shot to the chest, which would be, by reports, would have been fatal had it not been for a silver cigarette case he had in his breast pocket. It was one of those rare times when smoking actually saved someone's life. He would quit smoking years later, of course. One of the bullets destroyed his middle finger. He tried his best to hide his injury on Star Trek because he didn't want to create a distraction. But if you look really carefully, you might catch an occasional quick glimpse of Scotty's missing finger, like on the episode Friday's Child and The Trouble with Tribbles. He told Howard Stern back in '96 that in the war he shot 2 enemy snipers with only 3 shots. These guys were hit in a church tower with machine guns. Doohan also talked about not liking Shatner, which seems kind of hard for me to understand considering what we've seen on screen of these guys all these years.
I don't mean to brolly you, Wally. Leave us up!
Doohan also said in the interview he had done over 4,000 radio dramas. Leonard Nimoy's father was a barber who was still operating a barbershop at the time the series became popular. In a mid-60s interview, Nimoy revealed that kids often came into his dad's shop asking for a Mister Spock haircut, not realizing that Mr. Spock's dad was the one cutting their hair, or that Mo Howard had the same haircut.
Now that's something the Klingons would understand.
Live long and prosper.
According to Nimoy, the Vulcan live long and prosper salute is actually from a Jewish tradition meant as a blessing that he saw as a child. Here's one of those believe it or not moments. Leonard Nimoy was a sergeant in the Army in the 1950s, and one of the soldiers in his platoon was Ken Barry, otherwise known as the captain of F Troop. Nimoy encouraged Barry to go to California after his enlistment to pursue his dreams of performing. Believe it or not.
You're in the Army now!
What's happening to us?
And in no time at all, you'll be the most successful...
Iris, I'm a doctor, not a politician.
Probably the most likable and down-to-earth member of the Star Trek cast, despite having flown all over the galaxy, was DeForest Kelley. It's been said many times that he was the most well-liked of the Star Trek cast and the only one that no one had a feud with at any point.
Mr. Spock, remind me to tell you that I'm sick and tired of your logic.
He was an extremely low-key and private individual who preferred not to seek leading roles and not to be involved in the Hollywood lifestyle.
What is that, Doctor?
I like them better than I like you.
In real life, as a teen, he sang at the Baptist church where his father was a minister.
You're an actor, not a singer.
At one early point in his life, he actually wanted to become a doctor, but they didn't have the money to send him to medical school.
What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor?
I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
No, you're an engineer.
Look, I'm a doctor, not an escalator. Spock, give me a hand.
Not a magician, Spock. Just an old country doctor. I'm a doctor, not a coal miner. No, I'm a doctor, not a mechanic. You're a doctor. Not a doctor. A condemned murderer.
Kelley preferred westerns to sci-fi, believe it or not. He was on the Lone Ranger 3 times as 3 different characters. Once as a doctor, of course.
I'm glad you're here. Are you the doctor? Yes, I am.
A year before his death, Kelley stated that his legacy would be the many people that McCoy had inspired to become doctors. Kelley portrayed 2 different men in the legendary 1881 OK Corral gunfight between the Earps and the Clantons. In '55, he played Ike Clanton in an episode of the series You Are There in 1955. And in '57, he played Morgan Earp in the movie Gunfight at the OK Corral. On Star Trek, he found himself at the OK Corral again. This was in the 3rd season episode Spectra of the Gun.
We're talking like we really are in Tombstone, Arizona in 1881.
Precisely.
I'll tell you one thing. You better be ready to make a fight of it today.
Put him over there. This man's dead, Captain.
He's not dead. Take another look at him.
He's dead, Captain. He's dead, Joe. He's dead, Joe. He's dead, Joe.
You keep saying that. Are you a doctor, aren't you?
According to what I've read in several places, shortly after the original Star Trek series was canceled in '69, William Shatner was divorced and broke. He actually was so broke he had to live in a pickup truck camper. I assume his living arrangement didn't last long though, as IMDb shows he had plenty of TV appearances in 1970. Shatner has appeared in episodes of 5 different TV series with Leonard Nimoy: The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Star Trek of course, Star Trek the Animated Series, T.J. Hooker, and Futurama.
Shatner versus Leonard Nimoy on T.J. Hooker.
On October 13, 2021, Shatner became the oldest person to fly in space and the only Star Trek actor to actually fly in space.
Girl with a sun in her eyes?
The craziest song of all time has to be Shatner's version of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds from his album The Transformed Man in 1967.
He's up here on the shore, waiting to take you away.
You know, I read it was voted the worst massacre of a song from the Beatles ever. But who voted and when, I'm not sure. All I can say is...
You're an actor, not a singer.
But of course, you have to admire Shatner for constantly trying new things. After all, the only people who don't make mistakes are those that don't do anything. Speaking of trying new things, have you ever heard of Leonard Nimoy's album, Mister Spock's Music from Space? It reached number 83 on the Billboard 200 in 1967.
An unidentified planet careening wildly in an eccentric solar orbit.
Strangely enough, it also contained a theme song to Mission Impossible, a TV series that Nimoy would join as a regular cast member in 1969. 2 years later, Nimoy put out another album in '68 entitled Two Sides of Leonard Nimoy that has a really catchy tune on it called The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. Did the Twilight Zone give birth to Star Trek somehow? Most of the main cast of the Star Trek actors appeared in at least one episode of The Twilight Zone. William Shatner, aka Captain Kirk, starred in 2 episodes, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet and Nick of Time. The Nightmare episode is one of the most popular episodes of Twilight Zone, where Shatner faces gremlins that are trying to take down a plane that he's on.
There's a man out there.
What?
Look!
Leonard Nimoy appeared on the episode A Quality of Mercy, without the Vulcan ears, of course. The encounter featured Jord Takei, aka Mr. Sulu. Valley of the Shadow featured James Doohan, aka Scott. There's a list a mile long of actors that have played in both Star Trek and The Twilight Zone. But not only that, but sound effects from The Twilight Zone were also used on Star Trek.
Fascinating.
Recognize these sounds from Execution, later used on Star Trek?
A fascinating cultural development. Please, Spock, do me a favor. And don't say it's fascinating. No.
Thought to be one of the best Star Trek episodes, The City on the Edge of Forever, another time travel episode. Guest stars Joan Collins and finds Kirk and Spock traveling back to the past in New York City. But strangely enough, Kirk walks right past Floyd's barbershop from Mayberry, North Carolina.
Fascinating.
Of course, this set was part of the RKO 40 Acres lot. Mayberry was also seen on Batman and in 1950 Superman a few times before it was even used as Mayberry. On the Star Trek episode Miri, they turned Mayberry into sort of a post-apocalyptic planet that mirrored Earth. Another little interesting fact, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy even walked the same area where Opie throws the rocks on the Andy Griffith intro at Franklin Lake. Hey, check out my Freddy Cat Cartoons channel for fun and laughs in animated fashion. Did you know that Chris Pine was actually on Chips before he was born? That's him in his mother's womb. Seen here is actress Gwen Guilford, the wife of Robert Pine, who was also playing his wife on this episode. Who can guess which actor of the Chips regular cast was on Star Trek? That's right, it was Michael Dorn who played Officer Jebediah Turner and would go on to play Worf, the Klingon on Star Trek The Next Generation. In the 6th season of Chips, because of a contract dispute, he was replaced by Clarence Gilliard, who went on to star along with Chuck Norris on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Let's get out of here.
Well, I've given her all she's got today. Time to beam out until next time, which will probably be TJ Hooker Goose. At least that's my next project I will be working on. So I hope you enjoyed this video and hope you consider subscribing if you haven't already. Please hit the like and leave a comment and let me know what you thought of this video here on the TV Crazy Man channel, and y'all have a great day.